Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Rogue Agent Answers. My name is the Rogue Agent. Some people call me David Lewis, and every week I answer one of the many life insurance related questions that I've received from clients, from email subscribers on the daily email list, questions floated to me from across the interwebs, in the comments sections, which I know you're not supposed to read, or just interactions that I've had with people in real life over the past 20 years, which is a long time. And some of these questions I just scribbled down on scrap pieces of paper. Some of these are stuff I've written down on my phone. Some of it is on Post-it notes scattered all over the office. And every week I answer one of those questions. So if you'd like to ask your question, drop them in the comments section or join my email list for more life insurance tips and advice at monogenics.com. monegenics.com. Also, keep in mind that nothing in this podcast is or should be construed as financial, investment, legal, or tax advice. In fact, nothing that I say in this podcast should be construed even as insurance advice, as I don't give individual advice blanket just across the internet, unqualified, to random strangers. So if you need any of that stuff, contact a licensed professional that you know, like, and trust, preferably someone licensed in your jurisdiction. And now for this week's question. Can I buy whole life insurance on my children or grandchildren? Short answer is yes. Longer answer is yes, but with some limitations. So carriers are kind of iffy on selling life insurance to little kids. And one of the reasons why is because they don't really have a strong or established economic value yet. And so you can buy them. Some carriers are a little more lenient than others, and it depends on the underwriting. There's not really much to underwrite. Some carriers openly embrace the idea and don't make it too difficult. But just in general, it's not as simple and straightforward as buying insurance on an adult. First of all, the parents have to have life insurance on their own life. So carriers are going to look at how much insurance you have on yourself. And if you're a grandparent and you're buying it on your grandchildren, they're still going to want to see how much life insurance is on the parents, not you, the parents, always the parents. They want to make sure the parents are insured before the kids get insurance. Because the first thing the underwriter is going to ask is, why are we insuring the kids when the adults don't have insurance? Usually you're not buying life insurance on a child for the death benefit in case the child dies. Child mortality is really low. If you're living in a Western country, child mortality is low. So you're not buying life insurance for the risk of the child dying. You're buying life insurance on a child for their future insurability and getting a really low price now. Okay, so you can get $1 million on a life insurance policy, or $1 million life insurance policy if you can only pay, $2,000, $3,000 or something, premium per year on a whole life. I mean, by the time the kid is in his 30s and 40s, that $2,000 or $3,000 is going to feel like nothing, and his policy will have grown much larger than $1 million. And you'd say, well, I could get a term insurance for less than that. Well, yeah, whatever. You can buy term insurance really, really cheaply, not on a child, because typically they don't want to do that on a child. But somebody if they're in their middle age, yeah, you could buy a term policy for a couple $1,000s a year. But if you get it a whole life when they are a child, first of all, you don't have to worry about that when they get older, right? And then, so you can have the cost of a term policy, but they have a permanent whole life policy, and those premiums will never increase. And it doesn't, and unlike a term, it's like, well, I only need the insurance for a certain amount of time. It doesn't matter. You just keep the whole life policy. You just keep paying the premiums like you would for a term policy. And by the time, after the 4th or 5th decade of paying premiums, you could do a reduced paid up. You could do premium offset. That policy will have so much cash value that you just keep it. And if it's not costing you anything, or it's costing you very, very minimal, it would be stupid to cash it in. I don't care what Dave Ramsey says. I don't care what any of these other people say. It would be stupid to cash it in. Yes, it would. And no, I'm not kidding. that's why people buy life insurance on children. It's for their future insurability and to get those low premiums, right? So you buy a policy on a child who's like just born, or like 2 or 3 years old, even when they're like 7 or 8 years old. I mean, that's still young, right? So you can get a lot for a couple $1,000 or even $1,000. You can get a lot of death benefit and on a whole life policy. But again, by the time 20 years has gone by and they're only 20 or 25 years old, right? $1,000 a year, that's what they would pay in term premiums. But they're getting a much better policy. So to me, it's just this ridiculous argument about, I don't know, this is going off in a tangent. There's ridiculous arguments against whole life because the premiums are too high and blah, blah, blah. And, you know, that's a totally different question. Anyway, so the answer is yes, you can buy life insurance on a child. Parents have to have insurance. The more, the better. Life insurance companies they're going to restrict the amount of life insurance you can buy on your kids usually as a percentage of what you have on your own life. So there's some companies that will do a multiple, like a small multiple, but most of them are going to be a percentage of what you have. So in my biased opinion, everyone should try to buy life insurance on their own life up to their maximum human life value. Even if you're in your 60s, a life insurance policy can potentially be a good buy. In most cases, if you're underinsured, life insurance is almost always a good buy. It doesn't matter if you have kids or not, because you don't just use life insurance to pay money to your children. Okay? That money can be for your spouse. And if your spouse is dead, or if you get divorced, or if you're not married, people still buy life insurance. Now, the case is maybe not as strong, but people still buy life insurance, permanent life insurance, for charitable giving and so forth. If you've got $10 million or you got $20 million and you can spend, $1 million and buy, $2 or $3 or $4 million or even $5 million or whatever of death benefit, right? That means that you can keep your $20 million. You don't have to give $10 million of your own money. You can spend a fraction of that, still give to a charitable cause, and keep most of your savings, if that's of any interest to anybody out there. So remember that for whole life insurance, the cash value must be equal to the death benefit by age 120. I think I've covered this in a previous question. So even for, when people would think of older ages, cash value will grow at a fast enough rate to pay off on the guarantee. So anyway, back to the kids. It's typical for underwriting to issue face amounts on children that are 75%-ish of whatever the parents own. So for every $1 million of insurance you have on your life, you can buy, let's say, $750,000 of insurance on your child's life. Same rule apply for grandchildren, and the parents must be insured again. They're always going to look at that. And then the children can then own a percentage of what the parents own. So, and then when they get old enough, of course, you can just retitle the policy in their name, and that'll end up being their policy. Anyway, that's the buying life insurance on children in a nutshell. There's a little bit more to it, but it's for the most part, it's pretty straightforward. There's, again, like I said, there's not too much in terms of underwriting complication. You just have to convince the insurance company that it's a good idea. And the way you do that is make sure that you have lots and lots of insurance on your own life first, and that then you are now trying to protect your child's future. All right, I hope that answers the question. Thank you for sending me these. I'll see you next week with hopefully another good one. But until then.
Okay, that's it for this week's question. If you'd like to add your question to the list, just drop them in the comment section or send me an email. And if you want more life insurance tips and advice, just head on over to monogenics.com, MONEGENIX.com, and sign up for my daily email list.